Good morning, welcome to Headline Focus here live on Core Politics with me, Rob Double. It is Tuesday the 1st of May 2018. Let's have a look at what's making the political news today. So, Javid is the new Home Secretary after Amber Rudd, of course, resigned yesterday or Sunday evening. He took over yesterday and wasted no time being in the Commons answering questions on the Windrush scandal and indeed what has happened in the Home Office over the last week or so. Now, the key thing we need to focus on in terms of what he's going to bring to the table, and particularly the Cabinet, is the dynamics in terms of Brexit and also politics with regards to Theresa May and key issues, particularly in the context of the Windrush scandal, which is immigration. Now, it's no secret that Sajid Javid was a reluctant Remainer. His boss, then Chancellor George Osborne, pretty much, very, very forcefully wanted him to be a Remain voter, and he was. So he came out backing Remain. However, there are a lot of reports coming through today that Brexiters are very happy with him becoming Home Secretary. He's on the Brexit War Steering Group, or War Cabinet, as it's called, so one of the key Brexit advisors with Theresa May. And so, as a result, they think a long-term Eurosceptic, reluctant Remainer has replaced Amber Rudd, who was a very strong voice for a softer Brexit or a pro-Remainy voice of the Conservative Party. So good news for them, so it would seem. On immigration, the reports coming through today is that Sajid Javid is not going to replace the net migration target to tens of thousands, which was in the Conservative Party manifesto, which perhaps he could have looked towards changing, potentially if Theresa May had let him, if the dynamics were there. That's reportedly not going to happen now, so there's not going to be much change in terms of the Home Office with regard to immigration, or at least so it seems. Certainly he gave a speech yesterday in which he attacked the idea of a hostile environment surrounding the immigration issue, making a hostile environment for illegal immigrants and indeed the Windrush immigrants who've been caught up in the whole scandal. The reports also coming through is this is a reflection of Theresa May's support base. She is so weak that she perhaps was unable to appoint someone who she was more chummy with, or rather who was more of a supporter with her, to that position. James Brockenshire was tipped as a possibility as a Theresa May ally who could take the role. Sajid Javid was a tactical decision in order to widen her support base within the party as well. Now, reports coming through as well is that possibly possibly Sajid Javid is wanting to be a possible leader of the future, using this as Home Secretary, if he survives, as a platform to be a leader, perhaps taking place after Theresa May. And reports coming through is that possibly Theresa May will be looking to step down next summer. So that's something certainly to look out for, how he's going to play in terms of the Cabinet dynamics, in terms of Brexit, but also where his ambitions are going to lie in the next few months. Let's just focus on the next story, though, which is to do with Amber Rudd and how she got to the position of having to resign. Now, the Times have done a particularly big story on this today. Two senior Home Office officials reportedly are accused of letting down Amber Rudd before, during and after the Select Committee, the Home Office Select Committee hearing, which cost her job, where she basically said, there was no immigration targets in place in the Home Office, and then obviously the reports subsequently showed that there was targets in place in the Home Office. Glenn Williams, Director General of Borders, Immigration and Citizenship, and Hugh Innes, Director General of Immigration Enforcement, are both named in this report as people who perhaps could have helped her a little bit before, particularly the committee. Reports are that she came straight from the Brexit War Cabinet Committee to the Commons, was unable to really get briefed on what the discussions in the Select Committee had been about earlier in that day, which included the idea of immigration targets. As a result, therefore, she got in a position where she said something where she wasn't particularly accurate and had to go down the whole position of having to admit she had unwillingly said something which wasn't true at the Select Committee. That's something, though, which will develop, and BuzzFeed are claiming 4 leak inquiries have already been launched into Amber Rudd's demise at the Home Office, with someone being reported in the Telegraph, in fact a Cabinet Minister, saying that this was a targeted killing. No doubt perhaps some more stories coming out later today as well. Final story then comes from Justine Greening, former Education Minister. Now she has done a speech in New York where she urged employers to take a candidate's background into account during recruitment to boost social mobility. Now the headline this has been interpreted as in a lot of the press today is that companies should discriminate against job applicants from Eton, says Justine Greening. So that's probably what you're going to see in the news if you're having a look around. And reports are that grades are probably not as impressive as those achieved from candidates from struggling schools. That's also in the reports that have come through. The whole idea behind what she was pushing was this idea of contextual recruitment as a far better predictor of potential rather than grades alone. Perhaps we'll see some noise on this, particularly from Conservative supporters or maybe the Conservative base regarding this. Justine Green obviously was education. She fell out with Theresa May over grammar schools and other things such as that, so making some noise from the backbenches, causing a little bit of trouble for Theresa May and indeed government policy. That's pretty much it for today. You're up to date. Don't forget you can find all the latest on what we're doing here on Core Politics on our Facebook page and Twitter right here. But from me and all the team here at Core London, see you again tomorrow, 9 o'clock.